It's been out for a couple of years now, but I finally purchased the Apple Studio display to spruce up my studio and really give myself a proper workplace to edit my videos and conceptualize my videos. This one took a lot, being $1,600. It took a lot of back and forth between different monitors, even ordering up to 3 monitors just to get to this point of finally getting the Apple Studio display. So what I was back and forth on was a ultra wide curved monitor and the Studio display. Now the curved monitors I was looking at were about 34-inch monitors, 120Hz refresh rate, all of those things, with the Apple monitor being a 27-inch monitor, and then living within the Apple ecosystem. So the real question was, do I go for the extra real estate, or do I bite the bullet, have a little bit less room to play with on a monitor, and just have something that seamlessly works into my ecosystem that I'm already deeply a part of? The unboxing experience was in typical Apple form, over the top, overly produced, and now I just have a big box I need to figure out how to get rid of. So there was 3 things that were a must for me when it came to a monitor, and that's quality colors, high PPI, and ecosystem integration. I'm not asking for much when it comes to a monitor, but this was an extremely tough decision for me. The fact that my laptop is a MacBook Pro and I've been using it for quite a bit of time now, I've really gotten used to the Retina display and the quality that has to offer. In my opinion, it's the best screen on the market, so for me, any other screen outside of that is almost like a downgrade. So to be able to live within the ecosystem and get something as close as you can to that Retina display, I don't usually go really deep into numbers, but I did with this because it seems like numbers with monitors matter a lot more than numbers with other things. So let's go into the first thing I was looking for, and that was quality colors. As an editor and shooter and someone who shoots everything in log, for me, color correction and pulling color out of an image is really the most important thing when it comes to finding a monitor. For me, before purchasing this monitor, I would have to start and finish all of my color correction phase and color grading phase on my MacBook Pro, because with using different types of monitors, I learned that the Retina display gave me the truest form of color. So when it came to choosing that of a desktop, well, it was important to me that I chose something that I knew was going to give me enough to play with the laptop closed, that I would not have to go back and forth just to make sure the color was accurate. There was a lot of worry for me going from a laptop to a third-party monitor simply because of quality and color. I had to ask myself, was it important to get 27 inches and the most accurate color that the MacBook feeds into a monitor, or was it more important to me to get a little bit cooler of a screen, that being an ultra-wide curved at 30, 38, or 40 inches? And that was the ultimate question that was weighing me back and forth, that I needed help answering. And a lot of people are okay with their colors being close enough, but for me, someone who really hones in on their shot and really bakes their shot in the camera, so when you jump into the color correction process, it's exactly how you set it out to be. It's important to me to have the most accurate color, and for me, close enough was not really an option. Plus, this monitor is 5K, and it is an Apple monitor. So what that gives you is the resolution when you're feeding the 16-inch screen of the MacBook into the monitor. You're getting the truest of 5K resolution. With a lot of the curved monitors, you're either stretched out because they're curved, or you're stretched down because they're not a true 4K or 5K monitor. So prior to this research, I had no idea what PPI was. And I had no idea how PPI affected the human eye. What PPI is basically pixel peeping. How close can you get to the monitor until you see pixels? You really start to notice it when you see text on screen, or you're up in Photoshop playing with an image. You can really see how much pixels you can see from the human eye as you get closer and closer to the monitor. And that was something that I didn't think was important, but until researching and doing some back and forth and some side to side, I really learned that it was important. And this is where the numbers really came into me, and these are shocking. The MacBook Pro is 254 PPI. The Studio display is 218 PPI. And this is where it gets astounding, because the highest PPI I could find on an ultra-wide monitor was 163, which is extremely low compared to the other ones. And that could be a lot of the reason why I was not seeing the accurate colors, and I was still seeing some sort of a blurriness when it came to looking through these other monitors. Something that was important for me when thinking about this was, I shoot a lot of tutorials. I shoot a lot of how-tos with this channel, and a lot of it is pointing this camera at a screen. And when I point it at my Retina display, MacBook screen, and pixel peeping matters and text matters, you don't see pixels, which is great. And I needed something like that to be able to do on that of the studio display back there, where I could shoot it and not have to worry about seeing pixels in the post-production process, and I could still color it to the integrity that the camera offers through the log footage. And the final thing to add is every ultra-wide screen you look at is a high-quality plastic, and this is glass. So being able to shoot through glass and shoot glass, it makes a higher quality image through the camera, and that's something that was important to me. And lastly, ecosystem integration. I throw around the word ecosystem a lot, but ecosystem is extremely important. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of what the ecosystem has to offer, that being the chip that is in this Apple Studio display. 12 megapixel center stage camera, 6 speakers and spatial audio and Dolby Atmos sound, and I can tell you the audio on this thing is extremely good. Hey, not gonna say the word. And then the A13 Bionic chip. So there is a little bit of technology and software inside of this monitor, so it's not just a pretty screen. There's some brains in it. Now, are these things important to me? Not really. They're not really that important to me when it comes to it. I'm not going to use a lot of the things that it has to offer. I mean, it's nice to have a camera on it so you don't have to hook up a third-party webcam. That is nice. But for me, what was important was Thunderbolt and the ecosystem working together. I've used a lot of monitors in my day, and being able to plug in with a Thunderbolt cord and connect to your monitor is something that I think is underlooked when it comes to a monitor. Now, a lot of curved screens, a lot of other screens, a lot of third-party monitors have Thunderbolt, and it connects at a good, reasonable time, but it's not always reliable. Now, with the Studio Display and Thunderbolt working from the Studio Display to the MacBook, you're in the ecosystem of the Thunderbolt of Apple. So when you're working back and forth, you get a reliable signal through the Thunderbolt cord, and I've had 0 issues so far. And what's nice about Thunderbolt and not HDMI is this Thunderbolt is 96 watts and can completely power my MacBook. So at the end of the day, I don't need a charger, and I'm completely powering the MacBook through the Studio Display, through powering that into the wall. So in reality, I'm really one cord and done, and that's the beauty of Thunderbolt. Now, there's always stuff that's gonna turn me off. I talked about these 2 screens and kind of why I went Apple Studio Display to kind of future-proof myself and make sure I was getting the truest color from my camera, but there is some things that just turned me off, and the first is 60 hertz. Once you play with 120 hertz, and the MacBook Pro is 120 hertz with the ProMotion display, is it really noticeable on here? Not a lot, but when you get into playing video and you get into some things that are moving faster, you start to notice the 60 hertz. And like I say with iPhones, in 2024, Apple should not be putting out any product that is 60 hertz. We should be 120, and that is the standard. It's $1,600, and this monitor is not cheap, and this is the baseline. If you want to start adding in the nano texture screen display, or you want to add in a tilt thing for the monitor, it gets a lot more pricey, with the most expensive version being about like $2,400. So it's a pricey monitor, but with that high price, you're paying for high quality. And then screen size. 27 inches is not that big. I still think this monitor is too small, but I needed the quality and I needed the insurance. So for me, that was, at the end of the day, the sacrifice I had to make. And lastly, this is a channel of technology, and a lot of my stuff is Apple, so I might sound like an Apple sellout, but when I tell you I did the research, I put in the time, and I really had to test a lot of monitors before I ultimately chose the one I wanted from the jump. Sometimes you have to go that far to make the decision that'll future-proof you into the later years. You guys, we are nearing 10K subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. It's like words can't even describe it. I'm so excited for this channel, the future of this channel, and just this community we're growing. So with that, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave me a comment or hit my Instagram to ask me any questions. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.